Well, I can reveal, without giving it away, that on Plague of the Week this week, Mr Bleksley comes up with a very brilliant actual explanation as to why Keir Starmer is the way he is. I'm not going to tell him what it is. You'll have to wait till Friday night to find out, but it is very, very funny and very possibly true as well. Should we talk about the BBC? Because the front page of The Sun, still one of the few papers that's keeping it on the front page. BBC chief's meetings on antics. Apparently it says that when Greg Wallace was on Strictly, they had complaints about him 10 years ago when he was dancing with somebody called Aliona Villani. He was accused of making sexual remarks in 2014. John Turode yesterday, his partner in crime, and I say that obviously loosely, said that the scandal was very upsetting.
Yes, well, for me, the most disturbing headline of this story this morning reads, in The Sun, page 4, a quote from Greg Wallace that says, "I've not worn a pair of pants since I was 17.
Yeah, it's a bit too much information, that, isn't it?
It really is. It put me off my non-existent breakfast this morning. I really don't need to know that he doesn't wear pants, and apparently he was caught on film making this claim or boast or whatever you want to call it. The story's not going away. Some of the papers have clearly got Mr Wallace firmly in their sights.
Yes.
And I shall await the results of these investigations with interest.
Yes. Meanwhile, a far more interesting story is Clive Myrie, who's consistently being sort of touted as the new Huw Edwards. I'm not sure he's going to be too keen to be touted as the new Huw Edwards, but I think they mean in the sense that he's, you know, the next big name that's going to do all the big set-piece, you know, kind of events that the BBC cover. He's basically said this on his Twitter account yesterday. "I've told the BBC I won't be taking part in any more paid external events in the foreseeable future beyond a handful of pre-existing commitments so that this doesn't happen. My sincere apologies." And by this, he means raking in 250,000 quid for some kind of speaking engagement that he forgot to register.
And some of these speaking gigs, he's been paid between £5,000 and £10,000 for them.
Yeah, and I've always said, you know, I don't think if you work for the BBC and you get paid hundreds of thousands of pounds, which they do, that you should be able to use that sort of, you know, fame, if you like, created by the public taxpayer to go and make some private money because you quite fancy making an extra 200 or 300 grand a year.
It is astonishing the amount of money that he's been able to earn.
Yeah.
He earns apparently £310,000 a year from the BBC.
Yes.
Nice work if you can get it.
Yeah.
And this additional work has netted him apparently up to £250,000.
And you wonder why these people are out of touch.
Yeah, exactly. Much of which he forgot to declare.
Of course, because
well,
you
do.
You don't. I mean, you don't. Even though you know there's something that you have to fill in, like a form that says, "Have you declared? Do you have anything to declare?" It's a bit like going through customs, you know, with 200 cigarettes when you're not supposed to bring any in, and you go, "Oh, I forgot to tell you."
Yeah.
Even though I saw the sign.
I checked my bank account only this morning.
Yeah.
And there was 250 grand in there, which I've completely forgotten about.
Yeah,
completely forgotten about.
There's so much in there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, how can you tell when you've got too much money, right? I've got a very good yardstick for this, and there are people here that I'm not going to talk about, but who didn't know. For example, once or twice there was a time in the past where the company forgot to pay me, right? And it was a mistake, and I'm going, do you mind paying me? I need the money. And I would ask a couple of people, and they'd go, "Oh, I don't know, I haven't checked." If you don't have to check whether you've been paid, you're making too much money. You know what I mean?
Without a doubt.
I have to check whether I've been paid.
Yeah.
Because I've got to pay lots of other bills.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point.
Indeed. And as a freelancer, of course, my money comes in dribs and drabs.
Yeah. And you've got to spend half your life chasing it, probably.
Yeah, indeed.
Front pages of the Telegraph and the Mail today. British Army would get destroyed in 6 months to a year of war. And this is coming from a guy called Al Cairns, who is a decorated former Royal Marine who entered Parliament in the summer, basically made a speech last night saying the entire British Army would be wiped out in as little as 6 months in a major conflict. That's not very cheering news, is it?
Especially as our youngest son is joining the British Army next year.
Right.
Yeah. So
well, good for him.
Thank you. It's a very deeply worrying story.
Yeah.
Because, forgive me if I'm reminding viewers and listeners of something that I might have said a few times over the years, but a government's core fundamental role is to protect its citizens.
Exactly right.
You can park the economy, you can park the NHS, because that's their most important role.
Yes.
The other things are irrelevant if they don't protect us.
Yes.
And so, of course, that is why it is fundamentally important that we have effective armed forces that can respond, protect, wheresoever they are needed to protect British interests.
Exactly right.
Clearly, the army is massively underfunded, and whilst the government have made
They've
pledges...
just pulled more funding from it as well.
Yeah, pledges are no good. You know, cash is what is required.
Absolutely right. And speaking of protecting the public, you spotted a story in the Daily Express, page 14, make deporting foreign criminals a top priority. You would think it was already a top priority, but it seems to be something that the government doesn't treat as very important. We get people released from prison every single day who shouldn't be released, but people who are released who are foreign criminals surely should be released and then deported, shouldn't they?
How difficult can this be? A foreign national is arrested. Their details are taken. They're charged. They're fingerprinted. Their DNA is taken. You establish where they're from, and you establish, the police officers do, that they are a foreign national.
Right.
That information is all logged. That person then goes to court as all part of the criminal justice system.
Sounds like a good idea.
They are convicted. They are sent to prison.
Yeah.
The prison authorities know this is a foreign national.
Yeah.
So why are they therefore not deported when they finish their sentence? It's utterly ludicrous.
It is.
And this pathetic criminal justice system of ours, led now by this government, which, it's not having a reset, by the way.
No, not a reset.
Not
no.
reset.
Don't mention the word reset.
Don't mention the word reset.
No, I mentioned it once, but I think I got away with it.
Yeah. So it's fundamentally failing to deport foreign prisoners like it should do, and as the headline screams today, make it a top priority. So many of these foreign offenders are being released from jail and then committing further offences.
We had a story the other day, 10,000 crimes a year they're responsible for, apparently.
Yeah, by 3,000 foreign nationals released from jail that should be deported go on to commit, on average, 3 further crimes.
Some very serious crimes as well, right?
There's a tragic story from this week, OK? A prisoner, foreign national, serves their time in a UK jail, then they're not deported. They then return to Ireland, a country they previously had some connections with, and then, allegedly, murder an 8-year-old child.
Shocking, isn't it? Absolutely shocking.
Utterly appalling.
Now, I've got a question for you from Mark, who sent this in on voice note. Mark.
Morning, Mike. It's Mark in Lancashire. I'd like to ask Peter if he thinks the leaders of our police forces have totally bought into what I see as the hierarchical structure of the woke leftist client list, because it looks to me like they have.
Mark's nailed it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you where they got indoctrinated, the overwhelming majority, if not all of them, at university. Because these days, they are all highly educated senior police leaders.
Yes.
Okay? They haven't got any practical experience, or very little.
No.
Because this lot, the wokey liberal lot that Mark is absolutely bang on the money about, got away from frontline policing as soon as they possibly could. They felt it was all a little bit beneath them.
Of course.
You know, rolling around on the pavements with robbers and burglars and car thieves and drug dealers.
Yes.
All that kind of stuff, which is actually the most fun part of policing, generally speaking.
Right.
As long as you don't get hurt.
Right.
And locking people up. No. They get away from that. They climb that greasy pole of promotion. They speak their own language. And it is like word salad, mumbo-jumbo, pseudo-intellectual claptrap.
Yes.
They sneer down their noses at the front line, who they often regard as mere fodder.
Right.
And they're all in a desperate battle
Yeah.
to climb that greasy pole and get as far up into the ranks of senior policing as they could. They're very good managers.
Yeah.
They're pathetic leaders.
Right.
Policing needs leaders.
And not very good police officers either, by the sounds of it. One thing I wanted to do a bit earlier, and I forgot to do, is to check in with Joe Biden, because, you know, Joe Biden is leaving the office of the President of the United States quite soon. He's off on his jollies, though, and he's in Angola at the moment. Yesterday, we had him not sure whether Angola was a city or a country. Here we have him at an Angola meeting, listening to the leader of Angola. He looks for all the world like he's asleep. Joe! Wake up, Joe. Joe, what are you doing? Joe, wake up.
Poor old Sleepy Joe.
Sleepy Joe.
Sleepy Joe.
Sleepy, crooked Beijing Biden, as he used to be
Stacking
called
up
by
a
Dr.
few
Sebastian.
zigs
He's
in
still asleep.
Angola.
Joe, come on. Man, look, there's a summit going on.
Leader of the free world.
Yeah. What's going on? Joe.
Having a granddad snooze.
Joe.
And getting paid for it.
Joe. No,
No,
he's not. There's
happening,
nothing.
is it?
Nothing at all. Never mind.
No.
We'll check in with him later on. Oh, there you go. There he is. He
And
woke
just
up at the end.
remember, for a long time, the Democrat Party wanted him to run for president again.
I know. Well, he would have been better than Kamala Harris, to be fair.